America's workforce. Its strength is our nation's success. Join Ronnie Spellman on I Build America podcast as we explore innovative solutions and inspiring stories from leaders and workers shaping America. Discover actionable insights to build a motivated workforce.
I build America.
Welcome to the program. I have Johnny Taylor, who came all the way from Kansas to talk about workforce development. Johnny, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here. And we're in Arizona filming. Yeah. So you came out of Kansas. How cold is it in Kansas in the wintertime?
It is so cold in Kansas. I think I saw a dog wearing a cat around his neck.
I landed here in Arizona, and it's 62 degrees, but it feels a little cold here in Arizona as well.
It is really cold. It's about 7 degrees, and we had a huge storm, snowstorm. Yes, about 7 degrees.
Wow.
So it get really cold.
Well, welcome to the program. Now, you're an expert in workforce development. Tell me what you're doing now.
I am one of the vice presidents for Job Corps operations. I've been with Job Corps for about 29 years.
Oh, wow. 29 years in Job Corps. Years. Okay, fantastic. In your current role, you've been in this for how long?
It's going on my 3rd year.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, John, I didn't realize it'd been 29 years. That is an incredible amount of experience. How did you start in Job Corps? How did you even end up in Job Corps? I didn't know much about Job Corps until well after I began my professional career. And how did you find out about the program?
You know, I was teaching at-risk kids at one of the elementary schools in Manhattan, Kansas, and coaching basketball at the high school.
Oh, wow.
And during the summertime, teachers look for work or something to do. And they told me about the Job Corps program, and I was like, wanted to check it out, So I reached out and went over to volunteer, and they hired me.
Oh, that's me. So did you ever get to volunteer? Or they just
I did. You're hired, and I became a recreation advisor to work with young people. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in the lobby waiting for my interview, and the bell rang for students to get out of class. And when I saw these kids come out, they looked like the same kids that I grew up with.
Oh, wow.
And it hit me. They was different than the kids at the middle school, the high school. And I said, this is different.
Wow. Was it in that moment that you thought, I need to be here, not because of the job aspect, but because these kids need me, who understand and maybe can connect with them? Is that kind of what went through your mind?
I figured I'll just try it out for the summer. And when I started working with the kids in the recreation program, they was literally rolling out balls and giving them candy to exercise and to work out. And I was like, what is this? Wow. My degree is physical education and recreation. Okay. That did not go well with me. So I started a workout program for the kids. Wow. I started a basketball program.
Just in this summer?
Just in the summer.
Oh, gosh.
And when it was time to go back to the school district, I couldn't.
Oh, really? So you never went back at that
I never
point?
went back.
You signed your contract already.
I couldn't go back.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
I called the school district. I talked to the principal and as well as the basketball coach, and I just couldn't go back.
So you found your calling.
I found my calling.
Mission.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now I want to get back to Job Corps, but you made me think of something. I've spent most of my career in the private sector. And whenever I held a health fair in my companies, I had the same premise. I didn't believe that a healthcare should be passing out literature that spoke about healthcare.
Right.
We needed to do something. So I was having basketball tournaments and table tennis tournaments and dancing programs. I thought, you can't learn how to exercise by, some candy and a ball on the ground. So it sounds like you brought a level of expertise to the program, which probably elevated it just in the summer that you were there.
Absolutely. One of the things, sometime we had young lady and young ladies that wanted to be cheerleaders, and they didn't have uniforms to fit them.
Oh, wow.
And so I went on a mission to find uniforms that any young lady that wanted to participate will be in a cheerleader uniform, will be able to participate, and any student that wanted to play a sport, we will create it. If we don't have it, if it's soccer, we're going to do it. And we started that. And what that did, it created a self of pride. It created that pride in the student, and they had something that they could stand for and be a part of. And it just kept growing.
That makes me think. When I look at what you just described at the very grassroots level, like at the service level of administering programs to kids, you came in and you made a difference. And I think sometimes we create programs and initiatives at the office level that don't fit what's needed at the grassroots level. And I admire you for making sure they had uniforms that fit, because that's a part of the experience.
Yes.
How demoralizing is it to not have what you need to participate in a program?
Absolutely. Right? In high school, I remember what that was like.
Right.
I remember we would be in our football uniforms, and there would be some of my guys, peers that I grew up with. It was like, man, I wish I could play, but, they say I got attitude.
Right.
I got a problem.
Right.
And it was full circle that I was placed in an environment with kids that they say had attitudes, that had problems. Yes. And I watched them play sports. I helped them develop those resiliency skills to want to be better and want to be a part of something.
Right.
And I didn't allow a wall to be put up to block them for being a part of something bigger.
That's amazing. So I want to get back to your youth, because I think there's such a story to tell, but 29 years is really neat. I just learned that. I know we had spent some time earlier together, but I have a good friend of mine in education. And when I walk around with this friend around town, whether it's an event, a basketball game, there's always a student who's an adult now that comes to this teacher and says, thank you for what you did 10 years ago, or however many years it was. And I sit there in pure admiration, because this adult person is coming to their former teacher and thanking them for giving them the life that they now have.
Yes.
I'm sure you have some of those in your 29-year history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so funny, because I was in the mall one day with my wife, and I heard somebody go, I love myself. I am somebody. And I turned around and they said, I thought that was you, Mr. Taylor. And this kid is now adult and have a family and have a great job. But that was my slogan in the Job Corps. It was, I love myself, I am somebody, and I'm still standing. And failure is not an option.
Wow.
And those kids that I see that's now adults and have family, they still yell that chant.
That is so wild to think about. That they didn't know it, maybe seeing you from behind, they didn't know it was you, but that was your clue.
Yes.
That was someone that you knew.
Yes.
How did you come up with that slogan?
It probably came a lot from my life.
Yeah.
I being the baby of 7,
right,
and growing up the way I grew up in a single parent home, you have to go through something to understand your value.
right.
And my mom used to always tell me that I'm more than what we was going through.
Wow.
That I have to love myself in order to love somebody else.
Right.
And those kind of things stick with you as you go through life.
Right. Now, that's only part of the story from what I hear.
Oh.
It's which is just it's amazing to me.
Yes.
Right, when I hear your journey and how what you just described as your slogan impacting other young people, because your mom seems like a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Absolutely.
7 kids,
Yes.
stay-at-home mom, and then when you were young, you lost your father.
I did.
And she had to find a way to take care of those 7 kids and give you a future.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it was rough.
Yeah.
When my father passed away, it was tough. I also have one of my brothers is mentally impaired.
Yes.
We had to come together as a family, and it was very tough at times. Putting food on the table was a challenge.
Right.
My mom going back into the workforce, working to make ends meet, as we would call it. I used to tell people that At the age of 13, I knew what I was getting for Christmas because I had to work for it.
Right.
We had to push those lawnmowers and wash those windows.
Right.
You know, I was part of the workforce at an age that I wasn't ready to be.
Right.
But it was what needed to be done.
Right.
And we all helped each other.
What's cool, though, is that it made you who you are. You could have been some spoiled brat, right? Had everything you needed.
Absolutely.
You probably would have done well anyway. But that experience gave you, it seems to me, that desire to want to go do something. And then a second desire to want to help someone else do something and achieve something and then become successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, seeing the young people that we work with today, seeing them in the workforce, as they come through the Job Corps program, you can see that if they show up, they telling you, I need help. Right. I want to be more than or have more than what I have now.
Right.
And you see that value and you tap into that.
Right.
You know, you meet them where they at.
Yeah.
And you help them along the way. You help them come up.
And you just reminded me of something. This is actually really cool for me. I appreciate you being here. But you just reminded me of two other things. And that's through a lot of my training through the years, what I've come to understand is that we assume a person has a certain lifestyle. We maybe look at them, nice clothes, they present well, but we don't know their full story.
That's right.
And sometimes you're right. If they're showing up, no matter how great they look or how much they appear, they might need the kind of help that we can offer. There was, when I lived in California, I was working with this friend of mine who volunteered in an organization. And he was telling me this story that in San Diego, there was this kid that every day he slept through class. Mm-hmm. Slept through class every day. His grades were decent, but he slept through class every day. And they started to question him, why are you sleeping in class? You need to be attentive. You know, they were trying to be a little difficult with him. You need to be attentive. When they looked into it, though, what they realized is that because of his family conditions, he was walking several miles to get to school. Yes. And what they recognized once they knew the full story is that he was showing up.
Absolutely.
Now, he was sleeping for a good portion of the class, but he was showing up. He was there. He was absorbing what was being said, and he was learning.
Absolutely.
And so they pulled him from the program, put him in a group home, gave him the kind of stability that he needed, and he flourished.
It's amazing.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, just because people come from bad soil doesn't mean that they can't grow when you put them in a different environment.
Right.
When we become that sunlight that they need, and we give them that nurturing, that's all you need.
Absolutely. So that's what you've been doing for 29 years?
That's what I've been doing for 29 years.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, and I have to tell you, you know, when I was promoted into social development and being in charge of the residential program, one of the things that I did is I wore suits a lot.
Right.
I wore suits. And the students used to say, Mr. Taylor, I love that suit, you know. And I wore it for a reason. I wore it for them.
Right.
It was about them, because of what I was letting them know, that when I grew up, the dope man, the drug dealer, they was the role model in the environment that I was in. And so what I want to model to our students, that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how you started out. It's how you end up.
Right.
And that you can do this. We would learn how to tie ties.
Nice.
We would bring in shirts. I had the staff bring in shirts that they couldn't wear, you know, and we would have a men's club, a gentleman's club. We had a ladies' club where staff would work with the students. You know, all of that was about growth and development. It was teaching them that they can, if they truly wanted to change their life, that they can, and that we was invested in them to help them take that next step in life.
Nice.
And that became that mission. It doesn't matter where you come from.
Right.
It matters where you're going. I never forgot, and I never will forget where my life started. Mm-hmm. It's a part of me.
It is.
To the core.
It is. It is. And you've been giving back for a long time. Now, I know that at an event I attended earlier, you were there and you were speaking. And you mentioned that you love reading motivational books.
Yes.
And the Bible.
In the Bible.
Tell me about that.
You know, I can almost quote Les Brown.
Yes. Yes.
You know, Les is just that guy that in my darkest days, I could read something from him or put in one of his motivational tape. And, you know, I was just in Little Rock doing a motivational speech to the students there. And they just thought they started out, and I'm telling them that this is your time, and you got to be hungry.
Right.
And I can just hear Les. You got to be hungry. And you know, so it was those things that drove me. But the foundation to the core, reading that Bible, man, it wasn't. And I don't want to go into a spiritual thing, but
Sure.
Jesus wasn't working with the rich. Nothing against the rich,
Right.
but humble beginnings, thankfulness, never look over someone,
Right.
always pick someone up, always help someone, reach one, teach one, and let that be a revolving
Right.
cycle. Help people,
Right.
give back, make a difference.
So when you speak to these students, you recently spoke to a group. What ages were they? Were they?
Job Corps
They
students.
were Job Corps students.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's
16 to 24.
How do you open? Like, how do you? Sometimes getting that opening is so critical on whether or not you bring them to your speech,
Yes.
or whether or not they ignore it.
Yes.
And this is a new group. This isn't your group that you're working with that have gotten to know you over a period of time.
Yes.
How do you connect with them in those first few minutes?
Yes. You know, usually when I come on the center, I'm dressed in a suit.
Okay.
So that perception of this guy is somebody is there. That stigma is there. He got to be somebody.
Right.
But I take it off. And I don't mean physically.
Right.
I don't mean that I remove it.
Right.
I remove that mask. And when I share with them that I was so hungry growing up, we ate syrup sandwiches, you know.
Wow.
I talk about when you get missing meal cramps, you know,
Right.
when you get that one meal from that all day pot,
Right.
you know, you become resilient.
Right.
I talk about coming from a single parent family, but I learned and had more values from my mother. I had a sense of purpose from my mother, who I watched would take food from the kitchen. When the garbage man came to take the trash, she would have a sandwich or something to drink, and she would give it to them.
Oh, wow.
A woman that didn't have much,
Wow.
but gave plenty.
Wow.
I share those things with them, meet them where they at,
Right.
and bring them up.
Right.
Come with them. Every time I talk to young people, I let them know that you matter.
Right.
You matter.
Wow.
Don't sell yourself short
Right.
because you matter.
Right. That's incredible. Your 20 years of experience and your connection to the students that we are working hard to help.
Yes.
What would you say should be our next journey? So we're workforce development. Job Corps has been around for years. You've had 29 years with the operation. What should the next 29 years look like for workforce development programs across the country? How can we continue to reach the students a few years from now, like you've done the past 29 years, and make sure that the program, one, survives, and that it survives in a way that gives them the tools to be successful?
Absolutely. I talked to staff about it. We have to start with staff.
Yes.
We definitely have to develop our staff to understand that there is a generational gap, and it's moving quickly,
Right.
and we have to change our thinking. We have to change the way we think.
Right.
And we have to be able to work with the young people that is coming to our program, that is getting ready to go into our workforce.
Right.
And we really do. We have to move quicker. Sometimes we get stuck, even in the Job Corps program, because the rules and the regulations and all of these things, it slows it down.
Right.
And the workforce need people now. They need our young people now.
Right.
And so we have to be at a point where we developing the staff that work with Job Corps students,
Yes.
and we have to start moving our students through this program, but we have to be open to change.
Right.
We have to be innovative. AI, I mean,
It's changing a lot, isn't it?
It's changing a lot
of the way we do things.
It's changing
from the way we write papers.
Yes.
To the way our programs and systems operate, because you're using AI now to pay bills and to process invoices at the business level. But it's changing so much that we're doing the way we research.
That's right.
Is different.
The way we research. Yeah. And our kids, our students, they catch on quicker now.
Right.
And they fast. Sometimes they faster than the staff because they know technology.
Right.
They already aware of things. They can touch something and be across the world in 2.5 seconds.
They can.
You know?
Very true.
So we have to confirm some of the things that they are seeing, and we have to find new ways of teaching them to be innovative and creative and getting outside the box with our thinking so they can be prepared to go into this workforce.
Right.
Because it's changing very fast.
It is.
You know?
It is. And I've said this on a few occasions. You mentioned the internet having the ability to find anything across the world. But then you also have what's really a truly global economy now.
Yes.
That people are moving around. You know, I was telling a friend not long ago, in the 60 plus years ago, we didn't have the aviation we have today.
Yes.
Now, today's plane is just incredible. Oh. Now, I flew into Arizona like you flew in here. Great plane ride, easy.
Yes.
In the old days, it was the planes weren't as sophisticated, right? So the technology is changing so much in how we do things. People are a lot more mobile. And you're right, we need to find a way to keep up.
Yes, we absolutely do. You know, at the North Texas Job Corps, we started a aviation mechanic program. Yes. So students have an opportunity to learn how to work on airplanes. Right. And, you know, it's the students that went through that first program, they was hired before they even finished.
I love it.
You know, so we have to be quicker with getting them involved in those kind of programs. Right. We have to be quicker with helping them with the technology of it, giving them the tools that they need to be successful. So when they go into the workforce, they're ready to move. But there's something that we cannot forget that we are missing. Being on time, it matters.
Right.
Being willing to stay late till the job is done, it matters. These soft skills are so important.
Right.
So while we learning technology and while we helping our students develop these skills quicker, we still have to stand to the basics of what it takes to endure, to overcome challenges on the jobs.
Right.
So we put them in a real world situation in the Job Corps program. It's the wraparound service that we have for our students that empowers them to grow, that accountability, that when you wake up in the morning, you have to make your bed. Right. When you wake up, you have to be ready to go. You have to be off the dorm and ready to show up for work. You have to be involved and move through this program. It's accountability. It's support. We put support teams around them. Right. You know, we those are things that the workforce is saying they're missing.
Right.
A lot of times it's those soft skills, what I call power skills, that need them to sustain and be able to keep that job and grow. Right. You know, I could give you all the education in the world, but if you don't show up to work, it doesn't matter.
It does not.
So we can't forget that piece.
Yeah, I like what you described. You didn't say this, but you described it. You take a Job Corps and you kind of put your arms around this young person and say, we've got you.
Yes.
Now you show up, we'll help you show up, we'll make sure you have the tools and the resources. You don't have to worry about getting a meal.
Absolutely.
We've got you covered. All we need you to do is want to be here and work hard while you're here. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do that well.
I love it. I love it. Johnny, it's been quite a pleasure. Thanks for flying in to join us in person for this program.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that we can have you back again soon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for listening to the I Build America podcast. Please subscribe, share, and comment, and be sure to join us next time for more insights and inspiring conversations on building a powerful American workforce. I Build America, building workforce success one podcast at a time.